title is Student Support Specialist, and I work with Zach in the training programs Kitchen Cook, Dishwasher, and Host. And so we will jump right in with some of the material. So just an overview, the 3 training programs that I just listed that we train in the food service programs are Kitchen Cook, Host / server assistant, and Dishwasher / server assistant. Our Kitchen Cook program is 13 weeks long, and we offer it twice a year. And then our Host and Dishwasher programs are 10 weeks long, and we offer those twice a year as well.
So I'm going to talk a little bit about the Kitchen Cook program, and then Grace is going to kind of talk about the Host and Dish programs. Again, if you guys have any questions, feel free to type them out in the chat box. Fenway will be monitoring those questions, and then we'll open up the floor for questions at the end as well. So our Kitchen Cook program is a 13-week training program offered twice a year, like Grace just said. It's offered in our first and third training session throughout the year. So our students do have the opportunity to train in 4 different kitchen locations, which is pretty cool. 625 Tap House, which is located in the hotel that the students train in, and then the Courtyard by Marriott Bistro, which is also located in the hotel. We have a partnership with Roots Burger Bar, so our students are able to work there during internship and train in their location as well. And then recently, with our last session of Kitchen Cooks, we just started them over at IU Health Ball Memorial Hospital in their kitchen as well, which was an awesome experience. It was an awesome first experience. So our Kitchen Cooks have the opportunity to complete 2 certifications during their training here. So Serve Safe Food Handler is something that we cover the first week of training with these students. We spend about a week in the classroom going over some of this material, and then actually step out of the classroom for activities related to the content that we reviewed. And then at the end of the week, they have the opportunity to take their assessment, as well as prior to their assessment, there's like a 2-hour course that they do online that kind of just reviews everything that we talked about and kind of brings all that knowledge back to them right before they take the test. The students have 3 opportunities to take this test because it's part of their curriculum fees when they come and stay with us. If they do not pass after those first 3, they can pay, I believe it's $16 if they want to continue to try to take the test, but we have not had any students who have not passed this test. The second one we look at is the Certified Kitchen Cook, which is through the American Hotel and Lodging as well. This really reviews a lot of information on working in a hotel as a food service person. And this one has been, a lot of our students have passed this one. I don't think we've had anybody that has not passed this test. So a lot of success rates on both of these certifications. So our students in the Kitchen Cook program learn a ton of skills while they're here. More skills than what we actually have listed here, but these are the main ones that we cover. So they learn kitchen safety, kitchen sanitation, which nowadays with the COVID-19 pandemic is even more necessary than prior, but also you're working with food, so that kitchen needs to be completely sanitized and clean. Food safety, that deals with like allergies, making sure we don't cross-contaminate food so that our customers stay healthy and do not get sick. Knife skills, which is my favorite thing to teach, and I think a lot of our students really love the knife skills too, because they actually get their own knife kit when they come to stay with us and get to take that knife kit home with them. And it has 2 different knives in it, as well as like a sharpening tool and a thermometer. And then we also teach them how to use all of the kitchen equipment in all of the kitchens that they'll be working in. A lot of our students have really learned well from working with employees that are already there, being able to watch them and work with them one-on-one. And then work with Grace and I as well has been beneficial for them when learning how to use kitchen equipment. And then, as I said before, sanitation of all the kitchen equipment. They have to know how to clean and sanitize each piece of equipment, and not every piece of equipment can just be ran through the dishwasher. Some have to be hand washed. And how to follow a recipe. So we practice this a lot in the lab. Our students get to make blueberry muffins, chicken noodle soup from scratch. Chocolate chip cookies was a big one that we've done too. So a lot of like fun activities, but they're also learning experiences as well.
Okay. So our host server assistant role at the 65 Tap House is 10 weeks long, and it's offered twice per year. The training does take place at the 65 Tap House located at the Courtyard by Marriott Hotel. Some of the skills that we teach our students, first off, I guess we teach a lot of our curriculum initially in our classroom, and then they get to then take those skills and practice them in our training lab. And then once they've got a good handle on those skills, we then move into the work environment for them to practice in real life scenarios. And so, especially with our host role, they are interacting with guests primarily for their role. And so a lot of the guest interaction scenarios we practice a lot in our training lab before we then go into the work environment. So greeting guests and interacting with guests throughout their shift is one of the biggest skills. There's a variety of scenarios that they might encounter, and so we can only prepare them with so many practice scenarios, and so we give them as much information as we can, and we get to see them work in real life once they're working when the restaurant is open. Hosts at the 65 Tap House are also responsible for answering phone calls, and so we teach them the script that is used by the other employees at the 65 Tap House, and then teach them how to direct phone calls that need to go to managers, or answer the questions that the guest has when they're calling. Students in our host position also have to learn the layout of the restaurant and know how to seat the guests and then communicate the necessary information to the servers working. All of the tables at the 65 Tap House have numbers. The numbers are not physically on the table. They just remember the actual table number that's on a chart at the host stand. And so seating guests is more than just walking them to their table. There's guest interaction and making sure you have the right materials that go at all of the tables. And then general cleaning duties is included in the host server assistant role. Our hosts at the 65 Tap House open the restaurant, and so that includes a deep clean, a clean of the restrooms, a clean of all of the tables and the seats, and the bar area, just to make sure everything is ready to go for the guests as they come in. And then when our hosts reach a certain point of mastery of the skills, they might get to work a night shift at the 65 Tap House, which seems to be a little busier. And so at that point, they then get to close the restaurant, which also includes a deep clean. And so that is a large part of the host server assistant role. Server assistants also, kind of as the name explains, help the servers out. And so when guests are leaving the restaurant and their tables are empty, they might help them bus the table and take the dishes back to the kitchen. And then also getting drink refills for the guests as they are in the restaurant. And so being able to identify when a guest is low on a drink and then communicate appropriately to the guests at the table is a big part of that role. All right, and then our dishwashing server assistant role. At our restaurant, we also teach the server assistant piece with the dishwashing role. Now, some restaurants, those two roles are not put together, and so that's just going to depend on the restaurant that the student or the graduate is then going to apply for. The dishwashing role is a 10-week training program, and it is offered twice a year. And then the training does take place at the 65 Tap House. So initially we teach the students how to assemble and disassemble the dishwasher. It is an industrial dishwasher. It's much bigger than the ones that we've got at home. And it gets put together and taken apart every day so that it can be sanitized. And so that is a big part of the role, is learning where all the pieces go. And then students learn how to wash the dishes and dry them. That's a big part. All of the dishes have to be completely dry before stacking to prevent any bacteria from growing on the dishes. Kitchen safety is a large part. Although they are not working with the knives, necessarily cutting things or cooking things that are hot, they are around the knives when they need to be cleaned and the hot dishes after the cooks are done with them. And so making sure that they're aware of the fryer and the oven and things like that. So there's a lot of kitchen safety that we cover in the dishwashing program. Knowing where all of the items are stored is a large part. After the dishes are washed and dried, they then need to be stored in the appropriate location. And then communication with other employees is just a big thing in the restaurant field. Knowing where things go, being able to ask if you need help. For example, they have at the 65 Tap House a large mixer to make the pizza dough. And the bowl of the mixer is extremely heavy. And so several former students have needed assistance carrying that from the washer back to its location. And so that is absolutely okay, but communicating you need help is an important skill. And again, with the server assistant role, general cleaning is included. Opening up the restaurant is part of the role, and then general cleaning in the kitchen, making sure the floor is swept and mopped and the trash is taken out, and knowing how to use the garbage disposal in the sink. And then the guest interaction piece with the server assistant, getting drink refills for customers, pre-bussing and bussing tables.
Okay, thanks, Grace. If you guys would like to know more about our restaurant programs, please go to www.egti.org. I included a little graphic here, so if you scroll over to our programs and go down to training programs, you can see all of the restaurant programs that we offer. So we can open up the floor for questions now. I did want to say I saw that Mindy was on here. Mindy and I had a training together last week, so hi, Mindy.
Hi, Zach. How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm good.
Good. Glad you were able to join us.
I am very impressed. Very, very impressed with it. I've seen all but one session today. You guys are doing awesome stuff.
Well, thank you.
It's a lot of fun.
If anyone has questions, feel free to either type them into the chat box, or you can also just unmute yourself and ask questions. So Zach has been with EGTI as an instructor for several years now in this program. And then also Grace has been the student support specialist for this program since the very beginning, so 5 years now. So they both know the ins and outs of these jobs.
So we have a question from Missy about when we assess the skills. So Missy, it's very similar to how we assess our hospitality programs. We have the students come in for an interview. Depending on what job they want to interview for, would determine what skills we would assess them on. So Grace kind of covered some of that with the dishwashing stuff. And when we do dishwashing, we kind of see if they have any like sensory issues with like the water, any of the noises in the kitchen. That's something that we look at. But we also see if they can move the racks of glasses and things like that, if they're too heavy for them or if they're not tall enough to safely reach up and grab something. That's something we also look at. And just being able to determine if something is wet versus something being dry, and being able to determine if a dish is actually clean once it's gone through the dishwasher, because it doesn't always clean everything 100%. So that would be some of the things we would look for in the dish program. In the host program, we would assess students on being able to answer a phone, kind of run them through a few scenarios on guest interaction, work on identifying table numbers with them. And we used to use an iPad to keep track of our table numbers, but now we have just a laminated sheet that they use. It's like a map of the restaurant. So those would be things that we would assess for host. And then for kitchen cook, we assess them on knife skills, being able to read a recipe, identifying different pieces of kitchen equipment. So being able to tell me if this is an oven versus like a cooler, or a freezer versus the fryer. We also look at smaller pieces of like handheld equipment as well, like a whisk or a rubber spatula. And then we take a look at measurements too. So we have measuring cups set on the table, and that's something that we review together as well. As well as a ton of other things. So,
one thing that I want to add on to the assessment of these placements is our career sampling session is a great opportunity for students to experience those all of our jobs that we're training in, all 9 of them. And so with that, our career sampling, it's the 2 days to experience all 9 jobs. In every job that we are training in, students will get to do 5 different parts of that job and be assessed by staff. And so whether that is using a measuring cup, reading a recipe, they'll get to do some of the dishwasher job as well, and sorting dishes and things like that. So that's all done in our career sampling session, which is not required for a person to apply to our program or be accepted. But that's a great opportunity if somebody's like, I'm not really sure what program I want to go into, or what job market I want to do. That's a great opportunity to do that. And right now we are on hold. We're not sure when our next ones will be. So we'll be having those on our website and on our social medias when we're available to do those because of COVID-19.
hopefully soon, because I miss doing them. They're a lot of fun.
Yeah. Any other questions? These are great questions.
No problem.
So one thing that we talked about in the last video that Zach and I just did with Sarah was we were talking about what job markets are out there, what does this look like? So we have relationships with, so General Hotels is our management company at the Courtyard by Marriott. They also are managing restaurants around the state as well, and whether those are connected to a hotel or not. So those are some opportunities that we're going to connect students to if we know that they live in an area that's close by there. We've had conversations with Texas Roadhouse, is one I can think off the top of my head. And even one thing to even think about with these restaurant jobs that I'm going to throw in here is the job market isn't just a restaurant, or isn't just a, I want to say, like, it's not a restaurant, it's not fast food, but it could be, like Zach says, we're training over at IU Health Ball Memorial, so that's a cafeteria. They also do caterings. We've had students that have worked at big, like the Honda dealerships or Toyota, not dealerships, but the plants, and they have big cafeterias. And so those are great opportunities that we're trying to provide students with the restaurant setting, but also what else is out there. So working at the hospital is a great environment to learn industrial.
I want to say something and kind of piggyback off of what you just said. We have an alumni student. She was actually in my first kitchen cook session, and she worked at a university. I think it was Franklin College.
Yeah.
So that's also an option too. When people, even myself, when I first started this job, I was thinking, oh, kitchen cook. But as time went on, there are so many different opportunities for people in the restaurant business, and it's not just at restaurants like Finway said, but like nursing homes and facilities like that. So there's plenty of opportunities out there for our kitchen cooks.
Yeah. So
We have We have a
School
couple
systems too,
alumni
yes.
working in gas station kitchens and like Zach said, nursing homes. And so we have one student who did get laid off during this COVID-19 and went and found another kitchen cook job, because there are places that are still open and running and needing help. And so grocery stores.
So one that just reminded me and triggered a thought is I've met with some upper management people from Market District that is located in Carmel area. And so that is a grocery store that is a big chain, but we only have one in Indiana. But they are also connected. It's the same company that owns the gas stations Get Go. And so that is all out of an organization out of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, that's called Giant Eagle. And so in those gas stations, that has those restaurant type of settings. And so that's a great opportunity as well. Even deli counters at a grocery store. So because of what Zach and Grace are teaching, the cross-contamination, all of those different skills are great skills that can go into any of those environments.
And we actually had a parent reach out recently about the certifications that their student had as well, and said that he was the only person there besides the head chef that had the Serve Safe Food Handler certification and the Certified Kitchen Cook certification, which really kind of set him apart from anybody else that applied for that job, which I thought was really cool.
Yeah. So we have a couple of career sampling questions that I'm going to answer here. So one of the questions is, after the career sampling, will the guardians be informed of the assessment scores? Yeah, so great question on career sampling. After the 2 days, staff combine a document that has the percentages of where the individual scored on each assessment. And so that will help guide family members, but also the students, of maybe what job they liked or what they did or how they did on that. The other one will also, so they get 2 papers. The other paper will also be, we're asking the students 2 questions. Did you like this job? Yes or no? And I forget what the other one is. It's been
Is
so
the
long.
job hard?
Was the job hard? Yeah.
Thanks.
It's been a while since we've done a career sampling session, anyway, so I understand.
Getting rusty. And so that paper goes home with the student as well after those 2 days, because when an individual gets back home, they're like, I just saw 9 jobs in 2 days. That might have been a lot, and they're all running together. And so that document helps determine or jog the memory of what job they liked in that moment that they were being assessed in it. So they do get a documentation that says what those scores were, but it does not say what the actual assessment was. It just says kitchen cook and what the percentage was for that. And we're always happy to talk through any of those as well after those 2 days. Great question.
So once they determine which one they're interested in, they'll come in for an interview for that, and they will only be assessed on those skills.
So not everyone was probably on this morning when Megan was talking, and she was talking about kind of like what the process looks like, application. So if somebody applies to a restaurant program, or so kitchen cook or host server assistant, or dishwasher server assistant, if they apply to that, go through the interview process and get denied, they still have 8 other programs to choose from. So they are not being denied from an EGTI as a whole. It's that one specific program that somebody could be denied from, and that could be just variations of skills or things like that. I'll let you guys answer this. I've been talking too much.
Yeah. So we have had several, we've had, I think, 3 different students in the past attend different training programs. One student attended 2 different training programs, and then the other 2 students attended the same training program twice to just further their skills. And so that is definitely an option if a student has reached the end of the training program and they're either interested in another training program, or there might be a few more skills that they could continue working on. They could then come back for a second training program. And that would, you would need to look at our calendar. We do offer all of our training programs twice a year, but the same training program isn't offered back to back. Good question.
No, it would be self-funded for the second time.
To our knowledge, I'll say this, that to our knowledge, VR will only pay for, potentially pay for, because it's not guaranteed that VR will pay for everyone to come. It's all case by case, client by client. And so to our knowledge, VR would not fund for a person to come back for a second time. So we've got like 7 minutes left until Zoom will be logging us off. And so, so if you have any other questions, please feel free to put those in.
Thanks, Deanna. Deanna said VR cannot pay for a second time. She's a VR counselor.
As of right now, the registration for the career sampling for the October 15th and 16th is open. I'm going to pull up my spreadsheet right now to look at it, but I believe I do have spaces still available for that. I do have spaces still available. So we can only take 7 students per career sampling session. That just allows for students to really get to experience each of those jobs. Missy's asking, what's the difference between the career sampling sessions and the camp? I'll let one of you answer that.
So our career sampling session is a 2-day job-specific event. And so students come for those 2 days and get to sample all of the jobs that we teach. Like Fenway said, they go home with a completed assessment from staff on all of the jobs. Our camp, the students are coming and they're living in the hotel, just like our students would. It's a shorter duration, and so our students are learning time management and some of our community access skills and med management. And during that time, they will go through a shortened version of our career sampling. It's not the full 2-day experience, but we will do a version of the career sampling during the camp. But the camp has more independent living, functional skill focus for our students that want that piece to kind of build on their skills before maybe coming to a training program at Erskine Green.
Any other questions? And if you think of any questions after the session, feel free to email us at info@egti.org, as we will get back to you with answers or documentation that you may be requesting. The hope is after today, we will be sending out an email with additional information and documentation that you can have to download as well.
Missy said, so both experiences would be good before a full-on training program. I would think so, definitely. But it definitely just depends on your client or your child or student or whoever you're thinking of to come. Their skill set might be strong in the independent living and social functional area, and so they might not need the camp. But a career sampling session might help guide them into what vocational track they would like to pursue. And so we think that the camp is going to be extremely beneficial for the people attending. And so, yeah, it really just depends on your the individual you're thinking of.
Camp is 3 weeks long.
So Camp EGTI is new. It's new to us. It's been something that the team we've been dreaming of for several years now, and it has finally come to a reality this summer. It'll be starting July 5th. And so it's a 3-week camp, like Grace said, focusing more on community access, social skills, and that. And so that was an application based, and so applications for that have already closed. And then those individuals also went through an interview process for that. So campers have already been selected and or notified if they are going to be attending camp this year. So the whole dream of camp was to kind of like doing it in the summer, to where allowing opportunities for students when they're not in school to attend and focus on some of these other aspects outside of the job market. But it's also for individuals that are 18 years to 22. So there is an age restriction on Camp EGTI as well. But neither camp or, as Grace said, career sampling sessions are required. They're just additional programs that we offer outside of our regular programming that we do. And Camp EGTI is also only self-funded. Just so you can keep that in mind. We are under a minute, so it will kick us off at any time. Yeah. Are there any last minute questions? If not, we are going to sign off. Again, go on our website and you can contact Zach or Grace as well through our website, or just contact us at our email at info@egti.org.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.